Don't know how well that's going to play out. Probably not well, considering it's Euphoria. Hello, welcome back to the Truth Doctor Show. My name is Dr. Courtney Tracy. I'm known as the Truth Doctor. Thank you for coming back. If you have been here before, and if it's your first time, you are watching the second video in my series of me reacting to season 2 of Euphoria. Just a reminder that the content of these videos may be uncomfortable, triggering, or inappropriate for young ages or people who have been through some of the things that might be shown in this episode. I'm really excited to see what happens, and I want to thank you all so much for the commentary that you provided me and for appreciating the commentary that I provided you. Here we go.
Nate Jacobs was in love.
His face.
He didn't know how it happened, but he could just feel it.
Nate's in love with
and it
Cassie?
felt so fucking good. But maybe the reason he had those issues is because Maddy brought out the worst in him and had jeopardized everything their family worked for.
Any soon-to-be mamas want to take a dip?
Okay, what is this right now? I was a little bit confused in the beginning of that, but listen, what they just did right there is they took an intense psychological dive into Nate's mind. That was very confusing, saying that he's in love with Cassie. I don't know if he's in love with Cassie. We'll find out as we continue to watch the episode. But what we do know is they showed this juxtaposition between Nate wishing that his dad basically had never existed so that he didn't have such pathological patterns of behavior, while at the same time, his dad is the one that's sitting over the hospital bed with him, telling him that there is calm in him. So many people, so many parents have difficulties when they realize that their child is struggling and they are in denial that they could potentially be the cause of that struggle. That's not always the case, but it's definitely the case right here with Nate and his dad. There was a little bit of blame being placed on Maddy for being such a difficult high school girlfriend, and that maybe if Nate was with somebody else, then he would have a better trajectory of life and wouldn't be basically the that he is. I don't know if that's likely. As a licensed therapist, thinking and reflecting on that, who knows? If Nate had a different dad, then we know for sure his life would have gone a different way. But because he didn't, and he went through the things that he went through, I don't know if he had a different high school relationship, if things would be different.
I finally had everything I'd ever wished for.
Yay! I love them.
Drew?
Yeah?
I said I love you.
Ugh.
I love you too. So I sort of spent the last few days hanging out with Elliot.
Oh. Yikes. More than just one day of a
Nice to
lie.
meet you.
Don't know how well that's going to play out. Probably not well, considering it's Euphoria.
Nice to meet you.
Rue is so happy that she is now able to start a relationship with Jules now that they're back in school. Problem is, they're starting off their relationship again with her having a lie, with her having a secret, with her telling Jules that all she did when she relapsed was smoke weed. And we know that that's not true. It was at least Adderall and at least heroin. And who knows if there were more things involved, like cocaine, for example. That's not a good way to start off a new relationship, especially one where there was already trust issues. And now you are attempting to start anew and you're starting with trust issues.
Yes.
No.
Maddy couldn't sleep. And if she were being totally honest with herself, she wanted to be in that hospital bed with Nate.
They are emphasizing right here in this little bit the trauma bond that occurs between Maddy and Nate. He's texting her saying, I love you always forever. Thank you for taking care of me. And she's wanting to be there with him too. And basically what this is when you're in an abusive or a neglectful or a traumatic relationship and you're going back and forth between it being abusive, neglectful, or traumatic, and then it's good again. And then that connection is there. And we continue the cycle of returning to this chaotic relationship because it's familiar and we like when it's positive, and the positivity that we experience allows us to cancel out the negative. And obviously, knowing Nate's character, it's likely that Nate can manipulate Maddy into wanting to be back together with him because he does things like that. So Cassie's depressed. Maddy's in a trauma bond. Nate's in the hospital. Rue is lying to Jules about how much she's using. And she seems to be in a very interesting new relationship with Elliot. 10 minutes in, and there's already so much going on. Wait, what? What? What is going on? She's missing the sexuality and the intenseness.
Bye.
Yeah. Yes, we don't want to put our potential partner on a pedestal and say that they have to meet all of the requirements that we have in a relationship. But this one seems to be a really important one for her. And she's crying. And it seems to me like she doesn't know if she can talk to anybody about what's going on, because she feels really bad about having a need that she wants met in a relationship when so many of her other needs are met. And she feels like maybe she's wrong for feeling the way that she's feeling. So she doesn't even want to talk about it.
Cassie, I asked you a question.
She didn't see anything.
I'm not asking you.
Oh,
I'm
this
asking her.
dad.
I already told Mrs. Jacobs I didn't see anything.
Obviously, we can see where Nate gets the most of his manipulative behaviors. The dad is so manipulative and controlling and threatening, so overwhelming. And I think the reason why he's so attached right now to figuring out who did this to Nate is because he doesn't want Nate to be somebody that got attacked. He doesn't want Nate to be a loser. He doesn't want Nate to not be superior and masculine and dominating. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the dad has these urges and he's embarrassed by them and he tries to mask them. Obviously, he's married to a woman, but enjoyed hooking up with multiple different types of individuals, including Jules. And he's in denial. He's in denial. And so in order for him to still feel like a man, in order for him to be able to deny this reality that he has within him, he can't see it on the outside. If he cannot acknowledge it on the inside, when he sees or perceives that something's happening on the outside that reminds him of that, he's going to do everything that he possibly can to make that feeling go away and to make it not part of his external environment.
Drugs are honestly the only way I could be myself.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
She thinks
No,
that
that's
though.
true. Like when I first met you, I would have never had the balls to just like come up to you and talk to you. As soon as I saw her, I was just immediately afraid to lose her.
Who have you lost?
My dad.
Meaning?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Shit, I'm sorry.
Rue gives insight into why she can love Jules so much and still choose to use substances instead and put her life at risk. When she's talking to Elliot and Elliot asks if there's a feeling greater than love, she says loss, implying that she can love Jules as much as she wants, but the fact that she wants to run from the feeling of loss is why she's using substances. She feels like, let's say love is like this and loss is like this. So it's more important and focuses on her, and her mind focuses more on the loss and the numbing of the loss and the wanting to ignore the loss. And so it's her brain, her body, her mind is more significantly desiring to hide the loss underneath the drugs over loving Jules. What would be the best outcome right now for their relationship? The best outcome would be that Jules would set boundaries. She would realize that something's going on with Rue and she would take care of herself. And hopefully that would cause Rue to take care of herself, but it didn't. Jules left, as we saw at the end of season 1, and Rue went straight back to using substances because then that just adds on to the loss. It just adds on. Now I had Jules. Now I don't. It's a loss. I must use. And even in episode 1, when Jules asks, when did you relapse? Rue says the night that you left, because that was another form of loss and Rue couldn't handle it.
Kat, you're one of the bravest, most beautiful human beings I have ever seen.
Oh my
That's
God.
not true.
Yes, it is. I wish I had your confidence.
That wasn't even real.
It looked real.
That was the point.
I found it inspiring.
Shut the fuck up!
It can be so annoying overwhelming and disconnecting when you are struggling with mental health issues and you go online and you see people that have things that you want and they're just telling you to be positive. They're just telling you that you're beautiful and to just accept yourself. And the thing is it can be helpful to say those things, but it's also not helpful to not acknowledge where the person is actually at. So for example, like when you're giving advice to someone and they're like, oh, like I hate what I look like. And then you respond with, oh, but you're so beautiful. Even if you feel that way, and even if you think it is appropriate to say that as a response, which it may be, it's also helpful to say, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. I've felt like that before too, or that must be really hard. Is there anything that I can do to help you? Versus just trying to ignore those feelings and push them away and just kind of be like, no, like just don't feel that way. That's basically what they're saying. No, just don't feel that way.
Out of things, she brings the rain.
This is not going to end well.
Like
okay, but I why is she doing that? Why is she doing that? I mean, I know why, but but why?
We can't see each other. And we can never
Yes.
ever speak about this. I'm so sorry.
Cassie's probably having a hard time with that. She knows that what she did was wrong, but now she has this strange attachment to Nate. And the fact, so she texts him, I think that us sleeping together was a mistake. And when she says it, it's not an issue. But when Nate says it to her, basically saying the exact same thing, it really affects her psychologically because it feels like a loss for her and like rejection for her. And we know that she has been rejected multiple times by men in her life, starting with her dad, then McKay, now Nate. Is someone going to die? I don't want someone to die.
But she's cool though.
He has such a sweet face.
What brings you out here anyway?
I really love Fez. Ah! Oh my God. How did he find her? Ugh. What the hell? When we do not address how we really feel, what we are struggling with, and what we are trying to run from, we make mistakes.
You don't know how much power you have.
We do things that we wouldn't do if we weren't so lost.
Are you ever gonna look Maddy in the eye again?
What an asshole question. Oh my God. No. I'm so nervous.
Just a concerned father.
Oh.
It works if you work it.
It works if you work it. But Rue is not working it. Normally, she wouldn't be allowed to go to a meeting while she's under the influence because that would be too triggering for the other people.
I think I'm gonna get back together with Nate.
You are gonna get back together with Nate?
It's a mistake, right? Don't do it. I don't know if I can help it.
I don't know if I can help it. Because
I
you're
wish you
in a
could see
trauma
yourself the way the rest
bond.
of the world does.
I'm coming out with a video on this in a couple weeks. Stay tuned.
But she's doing well, right?
Don't lie.
I can't tell if that's a statement or a question. Well,
And he
she's
didn't
got a long way
lie.
to go.
That's good. That's
So
probably because if he did, that would be engaging in a type of character that he knows could pollute his own mind and cause him down a path he doesn't want to go down. I really like that they put that in there because she's actually lying and lying and lying and lying and lying about her use. And so that's part of the pattern of hiding what we're doing because we don't want to address the reason that we're doing it.
You want to tell me why some punk drug dealer beat you up?
Sure.
So you can see that the dad's like,
Yeah,
oh,
Nate,
you
I
let
do.
this guy beat you up again because he doesn't want his son to be seen as weak.
I don't think you want Mom to hear.
Oh.
You remember that classmate of mine that you fucked? Jules? Right. So she told her best friend, who told her drug dealer. And now they keep threatening to go down to the police station and say that you like to fuck little kids.
Damn.
So maybe I was sticking up for you.
What we saw here at the end was that even though Nate has all of these behaviors that he has accumulated as a result of his partly as a result of his difficult relationship with his father. And even though he defends his father, he also absolutely hates him for being the cause of how he acts now. We saw that when he said, sometimes I wish my dad would just die. Maybe I would be a better person. So much complexity is shown here in the human mind and many different types of relationships on this show. We actually have Nate and Cassie. Then we have Nate and Maddy. Then we have Jules and Rue. Then we have Rue and Elliot. And we have Kat and Ethan. All of these relationships are complex in some way. We see that Rue and Jules love each other and want to be together. And Rue loves Jules, but Rue doesn't want to be with Jules necessarily because then she'd have to acknowledge the loss. So now she's building something with Elliot so that she can avoid that loss. Then we have Nate and Cassie, this strange relationship that is forming based off of probably chemical addiction to one another at this point, attachment issues between both of them, Nate needing the attention and dominance, and as well as Nate wanting like a normal relationship with somebody that isn't as chaotic or traumatizing as Maddy, but then Maddy and Nate being in a trauma bond, potentially being close to getting back together. Then we have Kat and Ethan, and Kat is losing a part of herself in this relationship that she's in with Ethan because she isn't just acknowledging all the ways that she wants to be, all the aspects of her personality. And she's realizing that there isn't anything wrong with Ethan. Relationships when you are a teenager are so complex. I've been with my husband for 16 years. We started dating when we were 15 years old, and we actually engaged in a lot of this type of usage, drug usage, sexual promiscuity, and doing things that were illegal. This actually isn't an unrealistic reality for many teenagers across the country today. And they are doing a great job at showing the complexities of how our teenage mind as humans functions with all of this really chaotic adult stuff going on and how we're managing the relationships, because this is the time, right? This is the time in our lives when you're a teenager where you are figuring out your identity, you're figuring out where you fit in the world, what you want to do, and you're probably starting to have your first few relationships. And again, we're also seeing a lot of themes of emotional masking here. So we're seeing the way that Nate's father shows up to go try to threaten Fezco because he feels threatened. His masculinity feels threatened. And then we also see this complexity in Nate's mind where he respects his father because he's his father, but also significantly disrespects him and hates him to a degree, which is why he didn't answer the question at the end of, do you have my tape? Do you have the tape? And I'm actually a little proud of Nate for doing that because it seems like he can't help the way he's acting right now because he's been acting that way for so long and has been conditioned like that. But he's angry at the initial cause. He's angry at his dad and doesn't want his dad to necessarily be able to get away with what it is that he did. Let me know what questions you have about this episode down below. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What are you anticipating is going to happen with all of these situations, all these relationships, all this emotional numbing that we saw in episode 2? I hope that you liked it. Please subscribe. If this was your first one, go back and watch episode 1. Don't forget to like this video. It really helps the algorithm, and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. As always, I am glad that you exist.